So a few comments on the situation with the hurricanes, especially Milton, which is expected to be possibly one of the worst, if not the worst, storm in history. And of course, this goes to the whole question of climate change for those who relate to it, which of course the orange abomination does not, whereas most thinking people do. But either way, what I notice is that in the American chart, the Aquarius moon in the 27 plus degree range is in the third sign. And this is where you find weather in an astrological chart, meaning in the US chart, it would be Leo Aquarius, 3 and 9. And the fact that Uranus already reached those degrees earlier this year, aside from the fact that it also correlated with the sudden and very unexpected assassination attempt on Trump back in the early summer period. That's one manifestation of that. The other now relates to this kind of thing around weather because of the explosive, and in this case, it's not as unexpected, but it's fairly quick and yet potentially very devastating. That's why I would tie that situation together. The Uranus pointing to the American moon, which of course is a really important planet because the US is a Cancer planet ruled by the moon. And I noticed that the one working chart that I have for that region that is being greatly affected, namely Florida, the origin of Florida and Tallahassee, 1845, that chart has all kinds of Aquarius energy. In that chart, Aquarius goes to the ninth, but it's still the same axes. And Uranus is affecting multiple planets in there. Some are late, some are early. Definitely there are late planets being affected. So that's the explanation around the Uranus connecting to weather. In the meantime, as you probably know, the two presidential candidates are taking a very different approach. As expected, Kamala is being responsible and Trump is being completely irresponsible as he is desperately trying to claim through his messaging that the FEMA response, the Biden administration response is lacking, and all the way to, in his words, as always, the major hyperbole, everything is the worst in history unless he's doing it. And so that's what he's claiming. And this has led to all kinds of disinformation and so on and so forth. And this in his chart relates to the fact that Jupiter being in a sign and stationing, we're basically at the Jupiter station now, is really exaggerating everything. And I had said this a while back. I expected him to become more and more vocal, which in his case means more and more negative, but also, the classic Trumpian move of basically making things up. He's a liar. He's a liar and he's a sleazebag. He's just the most odious, repugnant personage possibly I've ever come across. And it's remarkable that we're in a situation where he has any chance to become president. But of course, this is in his sun sign. But the thing that is doing most precisely, it's opposing his moon. And this turns the Jupiter more disharmonious than is the case for Kamala. For example, in Kamala's case, it's on her ascendant. And I strongly believe that Jupiter on the ascendant is superior to Jupiter on the sun and moon. I mean, it's not the only thing happening in their respective charts. I've said all kinds of things about how the bulk of the action is much, much worse for Trump because Jupiter's opposed, but everything else is causing him problems as well. Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Chiron, Eris. It's just a mess. So in this sense, Kamala doing the responsible thing and Trump doing the irresponsible thing is what you would expect logically, but also astrologically due to the way they are. It's that simple. The thing is, for Trump, right now we've got the Jupiter station intensifying his messaging, making it very negative. Separately, because this Gemini, a place of communication, both of them are doing a lot of podcasting and a lot of media trying to get their message out. Of course, very different messages. Here's the thing. We now go into the full moon period, which happens mid-month, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's a full moon period. Very unfavorable for the Orange Menace because that full moon is going to connect to his Saturn-Venus conjunction in the 12th sign. It triggers it from Libra. Those planets are in Cancer. That makes a square. Very unfavorable. And it continues in that vein for another 10 days or so because Mars moves into that region as well. So the mid-month period, mid-October into the last week, very unfavorable for Trump. I don't know yet what exactly it'll be, possibly some rebound effect due to what is happening now, since I believe he's being incredibly irresponsible and these things tend to blow up on you. But it could be other things that surface around legalities, around you name it. I mean, the guy has so many possible open points of trouble that it could be one thing or it could be a number of things piling on. So expect that to happen. Notice also that recent news around polling, even though polling only shows trends and we can't take it too seriously, but let's face it, seriously or not, it's always better to see favorable polls, especially trends. And the trends have been good. And the most recent that I came across, you can find them on Midas Touch, the analysis, you can find it on the Bulwark, Tim Miller, Ben Meiselas at Midas Touch. They're explaining that the recent polling, especially the Siena New York Times poll, which is conducted by Nate Cohn, who is very respected, and that polling shows not only improving numbers for Kamala Harris, but the underneath patterns in the poll look very, very promising, including, for example, that she has the support of, I think it's 93% of Democrats, whereas Trump is only at 80 with Republicans. This is probably due to the fact that many Republicans don't want Trump. They're never Trumpers. So my feeling is it's going really well in this sense, and more so when we realize that pretty much the rest of the month is going to become increasingly difficult for the ex-president. And so that's the way I see it turning out. The other thing I'll mention is that we're also on the Pluto station, Pluto and Jupiter station in October. And you could add the Pluto in there. Pluto in a station tends to be a pretty rough planet. Hence, last year's October Pluto station correlated quite precisely with the outbreak of the war in Israel, Gaza, and notice that this year it has meant an acceleration of the war and things becoming rougher as a result. But that's that. There's also the matter of the hurricane. You could tie that to Pluto as well. Pluto and Uranus, both. Uranus in the sense that it's connected to the American moon, Pluto in the sense that it's stationing. And then furthermore, the fact that this whole month you've got the Sun and Mars, they're moving in a such that they're in square pretty much the whole month. And that corresponds with the violence and, the situation in Israel for sure, as well as, particularly with someone like Trump, he's becoming increasingly belligerent, if that's possible. I mean, and it is because we're seeing it, but he is becoming more and more extreme. He's running now effectively an all-base campaign. He did not agree to debate Kamala because he's scared of her. That's absolutely clear. He says it's because she lost the previous debate and now wants a rematch. This is bull, complete bullpucky. He lost the debate, and that's why he doesn't want to debate her. He's scared of her. And now he also turned down 60 Minutes because he didn't want to do that either, because he's scared that they're going to ask him questions he doesn't want to answer. In fact, the Trump campaign and Trump objected to the idea of being fact-checked. I mean, can you believe it? He doesn't want to be fact-checked. So he basically wants to lie, him and JD. This is what they do. And so this is what they're doing. Their plan is to try to get as many people in that MAGA universe to vote such that they're able to somehow pull off a win. My feeling is that's not a good plan, because the tsunami of women that are going to vote blue will more than make up for anything he can bring in, including if he manages to match his unexpected high numbers in 2020, when I think he was probably shocked to see that he had way more votes than he had in 2016, but it wasn't enough because there was also a massive overvote on the Democratic side, right? So this is the pattern once again. You could say for different reasons. The reasons are very valid. This is the year when women are going to make all the difference. Although, be honest, they made all the difference in 2020 because, as you probably have heard me say in prior videos, if you take out women's vote in 2020, Trump would have been reelected. So it's completely remarkable, that this is the way men would vote. But unfortunately for them, 54% of the electorate happen to be women, and the majority are going to vote blue, and they'll more than make up for any upsurge in Republican numbers, which for the most part, he seeks to get them from the rural areas, because the cities by and large are Democratic, the suburbs. And so those are the two strategies that these campaigns are following. Kamala wants to drive up her numbers. He wants to drive up his, but her field of operation is broader. And that's why you see that his Republican numbers are weaker, because some of those people are being peeled off and are voting for Kamala. All right, that's all for now. Look for a meeting tomorrow. I'll be meeting with Linda, and we'll be talking more about the election then.